We're now ready to officially begin the editing portion of this tutorial, what I call the fun stuff, telling your story. Before you can tell your story, you need to spend some time going through your event and watching all your footage to get familiar with it, especially if you're not the one who shot the material. If you're following along, make sure you have the H5V1 project loaded up from the previous lesson, or you've opened the Lesson 11 project from the Lesson Projects event that you imported from the XML file. The first step in building a rough cut is to look through all your clips in the browser, then begin making selections around the portions you want to use in your project. You're going to create a promotional video for my friend Mitch Keldorf's aerial cinematography company, H5 Productions, based in Scottsdale, Arizona. To see the final video I created using this footage, go to Vimeo and type in the address below. Select the Aerials keyword collection to reveal its contents. Locate the Powell clip. Make sure your browser is in list view. Whenever you select a clip in list view, the clip's film strip appears at the top of the browser. Skim over the clip to locate the content you want to use in your project. The skimmer is visually represented by the thin vertical red line under your mouse pointer. No other editing software has a skimming feature like Final Cut Pro's. As you skim, the video appears in the viewer to the right. Editing begins by selecting the portion of video you want to use in your project. We're going to create a selection range around the first portion of this amazing canyon flyover. When skimming, make sure you do not click with your mouse. Clicking will select the entire clip, as indicated by the yellow border around the clip's film strip. You won't be able to drag out a selection unless you add the Option key as a modifier before you can drag. To clear out a selection range, press Option X, or choose this option from the Mark menu. When the clip is not previously selected, you simply click and drag across the clip. Skim over the clip until the time code in the dashboard reads roughly 17 seconds. Now click and drag to the right. A yellow range boundary will appear and widen as you drag. A tooltip will inform you how many frames are being included in the range. Drag until the value reads 6 seconds, then release your mouse. To select a playback option, choose Playback from the View menu. As you can see, there are a number of options. You can play the selection, play around the current skimmer position, play from the beginning of the selection, play full screen, and so on. I'll let you experiment with these on your own, as they're self-explanatory. Let's try out a keyboard shortcut you will use quite a bit throughout this tutorial, the Play Selection command. On your keyboard, locate the / key. It's the one that also appears with a question mark. Press this key and the clip will play from the beginning of the selection range to the end. Final Cut Pro will also remember your selections if you happen to select another clip. Select any clip in the browser, then reselect the Powell clip. Notice your original selection remains persistent. What's also cool, and you already learned this in the lesson on importing media from the camera, is that you can create multiple persistent selections on a clip. Skim later in the clip to roughly 30 seconds. Then Command drag out a second selection range until the tooltip reads 5 seconds. When you release your mouse, both selections become active. I mentioned before that no other editing software has this capability, and it has huge implications for organizing and/or creating quick rough cuts of selected portions of a clip. With both ranges selected, you could keyword tag both of them or make them favorites. Press F on your keyboard, and all the material within the two selection ranges is tagged as a favorite, as indicated by the green bars above the yellow selection boundaries. To remove the ratings tag, press U on your keyboard. Let's look at an alternate and faster way to create selections, but first, let's clear out all the ranges by choosing Clear Selected Ranges from the Mark menu. Click on the clip to select it and press Shift-I to move the skimmer to the beginning of the range. Press your spacebar to begin playback. When you see the frame you want the selection to start on, press I. When you see the frame you want the selection to end on, press O. You can modify the selection range by dragging on either end of the selection boundary. Let's create a second range using just shortcuts. Press the spacebar to play, and when you want to start another selection range, press Command-Shift-I. Then to close the selection, press Command-Shift-O. Okay, it's time to begin making selections on clips we plan on adding to the project timeline. Select the Hanger keyword collection. The clip names we see here were created by the camera, and it's not very helpful when trying to locate media by content. It's therefore a good idea to rename your clips. Click on the name for clip 9488 and rename it Nose Reveal. rename clip 9394 to port side reveal. Rename clip 9483 to tail boom close-up, and clip 9473 to tail boom wide. Select the port side reveal clip. Skim to the frame just before the hangar door opens and press I to set an endpoint. As you skim forward, the timecode will update in the window below the viewer. For those of you unfamiliar with timecode, you can think of it as a physical address for a particular frame. Timecode is embedded into the movie file by professional cameras. The address is read in hours, minutes, seconds, and frames, separated by colons. Skim to 14 seconds in the clip and press O to close the range. Press the / key to preview the selection. Let's add this first clip to the timeline using the familiar drag and drop method. If you don't have it open already, open the H5 Promo V1 project timeline by locating it in the event and double-clicking. The name of the project will appear in the center of the toolbar. Position your pointer anywhere inside the selection boundary. A white hand will reinforce that you're about to perform a drag operation. Now click and drag downward into the dark horizontal strip in the timeline. When you see the green plus icon, release your mouse. If there are no other clips in the timeline, Final Cut Pro will just assume you want the clip to be at the head of the project and place it there automatically. Let's zoom into the timeline a bit more. Click anywhere in the timeline to select it and press Shift-Z, or Z if you're from Canada, to fit the clip to the window. Additionally, if you choose View, Browser, Use Media Ranges, an orange bar will appear in the lower portion of the clip. This is a great feature that will never leave you guessing whether you've already used that selection in your project. For our next clip, let's find a beauty shot of Mitch's helicopter. Select Tail Boom Wide and skim over it. Skim to the frame just as the tail boom of the aircraft meets the corner of the frame. Press I to mark an endpoint. To create the range out point, let's drag the right edge of the selection boundary to the left until the tooltip reads 4 seconds. In the toolbar, you'll notice a cluster of 4 buttons. Position your mouse pointer over each one and a tooltip appears, giving you a brief description of the type of edit they perform. Moving left to right, they are labeled as follows. Connect the selected clip to the primary storyline, insert the selected clip in the primary storyline or the selected storyline, append the selected clip to the primary storyline or selected storyline, and overwrite the primary storyline or selected storyline. These edit types can also be accessed from the Edit menu. To edit this clip to the end of the previous clip, click the Append the selected clip to the primary storyline button or press E on your keyboard. This edit command will always place the selected clip in the browser at the end of the last clip in the storyline. This is a tremendously fast editing command because it frame accurately places the clip at the end of the last clip, regardless of where the current playhead is. Let's add one more beauty shot of the aircraft. In the browser, select the Tail Boom Close-Up. Skim to roughly 53 seconds and set an endpoint. Skim to 58 seconds and set an out point. Press the / key to preview your selection. At this stage, we're not really concerned with precise selections. We really won't be able to get precise until we work with each clip in the context of the others. Press E to append this clip to the end of the last clip. Click into the timeline to make it active. To make all the clips fit the timeline window, press Shift-Z. Also helpful are the zoom commands. Pressing Command- will zoom out on your timeline, and pressing Command+ will zoom in. When zooming, Final Cut Pro will zoom in around the current playhead position. So if you want to zoom around the middle clip, make sure your playhead is positioned over the clip before pressing Command+ or -. Again, press Shift-Z to fit all the clips to the window. When the timeline is active, a purple bar appears above the time ruler. Click into the browser and a purple bar appears over the library and browser panes. You can quickly toggle back and forth between the browser and the timeline using keyboard shortcuts. Command 2 takes you to the timeline and Command 1 takes you to the browser. With the timeline active, let's play back and see what we've assembled so far. Press your home key, then the space bar. One of the best things about computer-based editing is that you're never stuck with your decisions. After watching these 3 clips, the producer thinks we need a close-up shot of the hangar door revealing the nose of the aircraft. Select Nose Reveal and skim from the tail of the shot to the frame where the hangar door is closed. Press O to set an out point. Skim to the left until you see the white driveway begin to appear in the nose reflection, then back off a frame or 2. Press I to set your end point. As mentioned, the producer would like to see this clip at the beginning, before the wide shot of the same action. Press Command 2, then the Home key to move the playhead to the beginning of the timeline. We're going to use a different type of edit called an insert edit. Insert edits do what they sound like they would do. They insert clips into the timeline at the current playhead location. In the toolbar, click the Insert the Selected Clip in the Primary Storyline button, or press W on your keyboard. The clip is inserted at the current playhead location, and the 3 clips to the right are moved later in time to make room for it. Play the edit back to see how it looks. This edit has the potential to work better if the hangar door was moving in the proper direction. As an aside, when we were shooting, the servos that control the door were wearing out, and I didn't think I would get the shot before it broke down completely. Then I realized that I could get the shot of it closing, then reverse it in post. In the lesson on retiming, we'll do just that. But for now, let's keep moving. To navigate through your clips in the timeline, you can skim right or left, which is the fastest way to locate your content. You can also use the traditional J, K, and L key method. Press L to play forward, K to stop, and J to play in reverse. Also, each time you tap the L or J key, the playback speed will increase up to 8 times normal speed playback. To move 1 frame forward or reverse, use the left and right arrow keys. To move 10 frames forward or reverse, hold down the Shift key and use the left and right arrow keys. To navigate by timecode, click once on the timecode display or press Ctrl P. Enter the absolute timecode value you want to jump to. For example, by typing 5:15 and pressing return, the playhead will jump to 5 seconds and 15 frames. You can also jump the playhead by relative amounts. Let's say you wanted to move the playhead 5 frames later or 5 frames earlier from the current playhead position. Press Ctrl P again and type a plus before the number 5 to move the playhead 5 frames later, or type a minus before the number 5 to move the playhead 5 frames earlier. You can also use your up and down arrow keys to move the playhead to each edit point. The playhead always moves to the first frame of each clip, as indicated by the L bracket that appears in the lower left of the viewer. To see the last frame of the previous clip, press the left arrow key. You can use your playhead to scrub through your timeline to view your clip content. The playhead is represented by this thin vertical white line with a down-facing arrow at the top. You can either click and drag on the arrow, or you can click anywhere inside the gray time ruler to move the playhead to a new location. The viewer window updates with the frame at the current playhead position. However, unlike other editing software, you can also use the skimmer to view your clip content. The skimmer is represented by a thin vertical red line that also allows you to move through your clips to view them, but does not require you to click before you drag. You simply drag. You can skim forward from anywhere in the timeline. One additional difference between these viewing methods is that skimming will allow you to hear your audio as you skim, whereas scrubbing the playhead will not. The audio is very faint for these clips because the recorded audio is just on-location ambient sound. If you're not hearing the audio, make sure there's a check mark next to Audio Skimming in the View menu. If you're coming from other editing systems, the relationship between the playhead and the skimmer may take a little getting used to. As you've seen, the skimmer is fluid, allowing you to freely and quickly traverse the clip content in your timeline, whereas the playhead is somewhat fixed until you click and drag on it or play back your project. Often the skimmer position and the playhead position are one and the same. Skim to any frame that suits you. To move the playhead to the skimmer position, click anywhere in the gray area above the primary storyline. Let's try this again. Skim to a different frame, then click above the clip to move the playhead to the skimmer. Now skim away from the current playhead position and you'll see the playhead remains where it is until you click somewhere else. The only time the playhead will not automatically jump to your skimmer position is if you select a clip. Skim to any clip, then click once to select it. A yellow border appears around the clip to indicate its selected status. As you'll see in later lessons, you select a clip when you want to do something to it, like adding an effect, for example. However, you won't be able to see your image manipulations in the viewer unless the playhead is parked over it. So you'll need to remember this important modifier. To select a clip and move the playhead over it, you'll need to Option-click the clip. If you want, you can turn off skimming and only work with a playhead to view your timeline clips. Click the Video and Audio Skimming button in the toolbar to disable it. Or even faster, press the S key to toggle it on or off. Let's leave skimming enabled for now. You can also disable or enable audio skimming using this button. Press Shift-S to toggle it on or off. Let's rearrange the current shot order in the timeline. In the toolbar, click on the button with the arrow. A pop-up menu is revealed with a bevy of editorial tools. In time, we'll look at each of these. However, the tool we're interested in at the moment is the Selection tool. This is the default tool and the one you'll be using most often for manipulating and affecting your clips in the timeline. While we're here, notice the keyboard shortcuts that are assigned to each tool. For legacy Final Cut Pro users, many of these shortcuts you should already be familiar with. With the Selection tool selected, place your pointer over the last clip. Click and drag the clip to the left until the left edge of the clip you're moving snaps to the edit point of the first and second clips. First, you'll see a vertical blue insertion bar at the edit point. Then the second and third clips will rearrange themselves, giving you clear visual feedback on what's about to occur after releasing your mouse. Now release your mouse, and just like that, the clips are rearranged. Take a few moments and play around with the rearranging of these 4 clips, placing each one earlier or later in time. You can undo any of your steps by pressing Command-Z on your keyboard. When you're finished experimenting, make sure your clip order is as follows: nose reveal, port side reveal, tail boom close-up, and tail boom wide. In the next lesson, you'll learn how to synchronize video and audio that was shot on 2 different recording devices.